Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Spitz-Cohan, Executive Director of Film Pittsburgh, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the uh, Q&A with Block 10 from Pittsburgh Shorts. Lovely filmmakers, if you would introduce yourself to us, tell us your name and the name of your film and your roles on the film, that'd be great.
Great. Well, aloha, everyone. My name is Joe Wilson. I'm a Western Pennsylvania native now based in Hawaii, and I am the producer-director of an animated short called Kapai Mahu.
And I'm Liz Labacz. My film is A Streetcar Named ... and I'm primarily the writer of the short film as well as an actor within it.
Great. And Liz, let's start with you. Can you tell us how the film came to be and about the lovely title?
Sure. So originally, this was staged live on stage at a local comedy theater. It came to be just because I was previously like online dating as a single person before I got married, and I also love to watch old movies, and sort of the disparity between how modern dating can go so very suddenly from very intense, a lot of communication to nothing, and then comparing that to sort of these old romances, right, with people who would go to the ends of the earth, and extremely passionate. And so just sort of a joke of taking this, a streetcar named Desire, and putting it in sort of the modern dating age. I wouldn't necessarily call A Streetcar Named Desire a romance, but in the context of comedy, it sort of made the most sense. And so we did it live on stage, and with texting is a big part of the movie, and so we had stills projected behind us. So that was actually a really nice thing to adapt into the film world.
Very good. How about you, Joe? How did your animated film come to be?
It's somewhat of a circuitous route, and I'm an accidental filmmaker, actually. But the story begins in, of all places, my hometown of Oil City, Pennsylvania, which is just about 2 hours north of Pittsburgh. And so I was born and raised there, had a traditional small town life in Western Pennsylvania, but also am a gay man. And so I was kind of struggling, to find myself in that kind of conservative world that I grew up in. I ended up in Pittsburgh, going to Pitt, which was a real revelation for me, a wonderful kind of big city experience that introduced me to all kinds of new possibilities. As I made my way in the world, I ended up in Washington, D.C., working on human rights and grassroots social justice organizing issues, and fell in love. And like a lot of people who fall in love and get married, you put your wedding announcement in the local newspaper where you're from, so your friends and family can see your happiness. And for me, that was Oil City, Pennsylvania. And when the announcement was published in that local newspaper, it created a firestorm of controversy where there was a real right-wing backlash against any open visibility. So in response to that, I got a letter from a mother of a 10th grader in the local high school who wrote to me and said, "My son is being brutally bullied in high school, and I don't know what to do. I saw your picture in the paper. I don't know any gay people. Can you help?" And so that started my journey back to my hometown to explore what the struggle was like, for this new generation of young people. And my partner Dean and I supported that family and ended up making a film about their struggle, fighting for visibility and rights in the context of small town America. That film became Out in the Silence, a PBS film that then took us all over the country, using it as a tool to help raise visibility and support people in small towns and rural communities who are also fighting for dignity and respect. That journey brought us to Hawaii. And in that journey where we were screening that film and meeting with local community folks to talk about these issues in their context and how to move things forward, we met someone named Hinale Moana Wangkalu, who is an amazing Hawaiian cultural leader and community activist who also happens to be Mahu, or transgender. And she revealed to us that, like in many indigenous cultures, Hawaii and Hawaiian culture prior to European arrival had been a place where people across the gender spectrum were respected and included. And that launched us on a journey to make a film about Hina. That became another big PBS film called Kumu Hina, or Teacher Hina. And in the process, Hina introduced us to these stones on Waikiki Beach, about which the animated short Kapaimahu is based. And I can expand more upon that as the conversation goes on, but I don't want to talk too much.
No, that's fascinating. Of course, I know the film, and I've watched all 137 short films and 30 feature films, but I did not know your backstory, and I knew you had a Pittsburgh connection, but that's really amazing. At what point how many years ago was the wedding announcement in the local Oil City paper?
It was back in 2004, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We got married in Canada before it was, legal in the United States.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will talk more about it. It's this interview is taking place on, I'm looking at the date, October 27th, and before the election. But when people see it, it will be after November 11th, and so obviously after the election. And it's frightening to think that gay marriage could be turned back, or that many of the rights that we have come to live our lives by might be taken away from us. So it is a concern. But without getting too dark and down, I try to stay positive. And
can I just add, Catherine?
Sure,
this interview is taking place on a really important day in the Pittsburgh area, and for all of us, it's the 2-year anniversary of the killings of the Tree of Life Synagogue. So the memory lives on, and we know this is a struggle that we all need to be involved in.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. Of course, I knew that had that in my brain today, all day, and it's the kind of thing where people remember where they were when Kennedy was assassinated. I remember where I was and how frightening that was, and how just, Anyway, I want to turn to Liz and say, it's great to see you. I taught you acting a number of years ago when you were at the University of Pittsburgh. And although I don't know all of your team, you now work with a team of people that write and act and direct and produce your own stuff. And if you could tell us a little bit about that, because it sounds like the film started out as a play and that you somehow decided to shoot it. So I'm interested in this group that you formed, and if you could tell everybody a little bit about that. How wonderful.
Sure.
That you're working essentially with friends from college for your livelihood. I think it's great. So
thank you. So the group I work with, we are called Frankly Scarlet, which is a reference to Scarlett O'Hara and to the often misquoted line from Gone with the Wind. And the other team members are Abby Feuder, who was also a Pitt theater student, and Robin Hitchcock, who was a Pitt history student. And we met through Friday Night Improvs, which was an improv show, sort of a literally underground comedy show at the University of Pittsburgh. So very strong Pitt connection here. And we started doing comedy together because at the time, there were not a lot of women represented in the either local or national comedy scene. It was, and still to somewhat remains, a very male-dominated community. And so we got together and decided to start producing shows, a combination of written, staged short plays or sketches and improv. And just as we've grown together, we've been performing together since 2012. We started to expand into film a little bit and take some of the things that we were able to stage on the stage at Arcade Comedy Theater and decide to try and adapt that to film. So this is our third, I think, short film that we've taken from stage to screen. And we all sort of play different roles. So, you know, Abby and I were both in this sketch as actors, but I was the primary writer. Abby was the primary director. Abby's husband helped us out with some of the cinematography. Robin played a producer role and also assisted in writing. She also did all of our hair and makeup. And so it is a scrappy team of people who we sort of fill whatever role is necessary.
But I think it's wonderful that you all came together and that you collaborate together. We've had other Q&As where people talk about making movies with their friends, and that it seems to be something that people, you know, making movies is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And so it's nice when there's relationships there that are strong and can become even stronger through the making of a creative piece of art. So Joe, back to you and the film. Is this the beginning of its festival run or the end of its festival run? Where are you with it? Where is it played and what has the reaction been?
Oh, right. Yes. So the film premiered at this year's Tribeca. And so we've been on quite a extensive film festival virtual screening tour around the US and around the world. It's been received, you know, much to our delight, quite well. It has now won 2 Oscar qualifying awards, one at Anamayo in Spain and the other at the Atlanta Film Festival. So, you know, the films that we make.
Congratulations, that's great.
Thanks. Yeah, it fits into kind of the way that my partner Dean and Hina and I try to use film, which is, I think, as you were just talking with Liz, it's really an opportunity to kind of bring, you know, new forms of storytelling to the fore that help introduce people to hopefully, you know, new ways of seeing things and acting in the world. And so our films are always oriented around how do we raise awareness and use them for kind of tools to kind of promote dialogue and stuff. And this one kind of is following in that same realm, aiming to raise awareness about, in this case, a culture, a Hawaiian culture that, you know, has a different and a more welcoming and inclusive perspective on how we perceive gender identity and expression, and who belongs and who should be revered in our communities and our society. So alongside the release of the film, we're also working on a documentary film that will explore the themes that the animation brings forward, like how
fantastic.
Different times in history affected the way the story was told, or in some cases not told and actually suppressed and erased. And then we're also working with a museum here in Honolulu called the Bishop Museum, which is like the premier museum of Pacific culture and history, on an exhibition that will be exploring these same themes as well. Yeah.
How are the 4, do you call them statues? How are they received? How are they looked upon by the local people that live where they are?
Right. So they're actually stones, and in Hawaiian culture, as a lot of Pacific culture, stones have significant meaning and hold what they call mana, or spiritual power. And so the stones are huge, these huge boulders that are located actually in a very prominent spot on Waikiki Beach. And they're enclosed now and treated as a local memorial to these amazing beings that were said to have brought the healing arts from Tahiti to Hawaii long, long ago.
Wow.
And they were so beloved by the people for the miraculous cures that they helped the people to receive, that the people erected this monument in their honor. And so that their spiritual power would forever kind of be here. And so those stones have lived on through the centuries, actually, here on Waikiki Beach. But as the 20th century dawned here, and there was a much more significant foreign presence and with it, kind of the attitudes, that came through Christianization and militarization, etc. The way that story had been passed down through the generations was interrupted and altered and changed, so that the fact that these healers from Tahiti, who were revered, were known as Mahu, or people of dual gender nature, that aspect was suppressed and erased from the telling of the story. So our effort, by bringing this story back to life in its full sense, animated and articulated in the Hawaiian language as it might have been heard hundreds of years ago, is just aimed at bringing that full story back so people can see, hear, and understand what has been neglected. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Liz, tell us what you and your group are working on now.
So all three of us are in some way connected to the Arcade Comedy Theater. Abby Feuder is its managing artistic director. I'm on the board, and Robin is our director of education. So we've sort of been focused on that, sort of keeping an arts organization afloat while we are unable to have people in our theater and seeing live shows. So part of it was really trying to promote this short film. We've been writing and trying to work on sort of live Zoom comedy, which is a real adaptation to what we're used to. But I think, it's definitely been the challenge has sort of created new avenues for art, right? When you put limits on art, sometimes you get really exciting new things out of it. So really trying to adapt to doing live comedy in the pandemic, and taking this time to do some writing and some planning for the future. I think we would like to take more of our stage work and adapt it to film as well.
Gotcha. Great. Well, I think it's interesting that you two have an education component that I'm just learning about now, because as Joe, you were saying, I don't like to say that what Film Pittsburgh is all about education. I don't, because somehow people associate movies with like entertainment, and that's good too. But there's nothing wrong with a little, mind bending or mind expanding is the better phrase, to spending your time watching a film and thinking something new or something different about something you thought one way about. So that's what Film Pittsburgh is all about. And I greatly appreciate your allowing us to share your films with our audience. You always have a home here. Some literally, but always please stay in touch with us and keep us posted on the work that you're doing. And I'm just grateful. So thank you so much for being with us today. And to our Film Pittsburgh audience, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you, Catherine. Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. Thank you.